that was funny. So I asked for the docket sheet, right? And they start telling me that there's no docket sheet. I mean, in this court, there is no such thing as a docket sheet. They just have dockets. So, and she told me that she could not give me a copy of the docket, right? But, you know, the interesting thing is that when I get there, like she's pretending, I mean, the person who, it wasn't the same lady as on Monday. But this other lady pretended that she didn't know who I was, right? But anyhow, at the end, you know, she goes to the computer to print out something, right? And then she starts talking to the one that I had the incident with, which is the supervisor, right? We had the incident on Monday. And she tells the supervisor, but Napier still appears as his attorney. So she knew, I mean, she knew who I was, and she even knew the case number, right? Because she looked it up, and she knew about Napier. So this woman that is pretending that she doesn't know me, knew the name of my attorney. And she knew that the attorney shouldn't be there, right? Because he withdrew. Now, the other woman, the one that I had the incident with, replies with, oh, it's that I haven't had the chance to remove him because I've been so busy. Right? So she also knows who they're talking about, right? I mean, this whole sequence shows that they all know, you know, that this is not a regular traffic citation. It is, you know, something else, right? But anyhow, I just filed a second amended motion for discovery asking for the recordings of that lobby on Monday, because now the supervisor, the police officer, and the other woman, the three of them are part of the traffic ticket, right? Because, I mean, that shows that they have nothing to do with that court. So let's see if they tamper with the evidence and delete the recording, right? That would be 20 years in prison. But going back to the topic of the double zeros, right? I mean, this piece of knowledge makes it even easier for me, right? Because now I know that I don't have to vote out the vehicle. I don't have to avoid the double zeros. So I don't care if the other one start me, right? I mean, because it's not going to be precise enough to get the other ones in place. So what I have to do is, you know, if there is a double zero, I have to avoid that one. example. Yes, but what I was telling you is wasn't that was this is a weakness, right, of the system, because this means that they can change the distribution, like they're married to it, they're stuck, right? They're stuck with this design choices that they made. You know, they probably have other diagrams, right? It's not only the W zeros. The W zeros happen to be common in what they're doing here. Maybe they change by hub, right? Maybe different hubs have different diagrams. It's possible. In fact, I would have done it that way. You know, like in West Monroe, the diagram could be something else, right? That would be useful because it would allow you to identify, okay, this is a guy that is up here, right? Like W0, W1, W3, right? And we know that they care about, because of this, right? Because of this observation, they care about enabling the agent to coordinate visually, right, without computer assistance. And this is an important feature for them. Otherwise, they wouldn't have left the diagram so exposed. Right? Of course, they were difficult to see before. I'm just going to say this, so it's recorded, right? This was difficult to see before because think that they have, 2,000 vehicles, right, working on this every day, right? And out of those, I don't know, 100 are intersection vehicles, and 1,900 are tagging vehicles. So because that creates a lot of noise, I mean, for my system, you cannot see, and for me, visually, you cannot see, seeing out so many places is hard to pick up, but, this specific subset are the intersections, right? But what happened was, when I implemented the countermeasure of the infrared, their precision dropped to the star. And they weren't able, so I was able to myself, with the computer, I verified with the computer already, but I was able to see myself that the W0 vehicles were missing. Like, I couldn't see any W, there's these notable diagrams, like WDJ and, WGJ and W. Yesterday, none of them were close to me during the entire morning. I saw only two, but normally I see 10 per 10 minutes. Like every minute I see one, right? So this told me immediately that what was happening is that they weren't able to get them in place because I had this thing on the license plate, right? So it not only confirmed that the experiment was successful, it also confirmed that without the geotagging, they can't get the interceptors in place. And of course, that told me that those vehicles that I was seeing with such a high frequency are the interceptors. And that's why I was seeing them so much, because they were always putting them next to me and to the camera, right? So I don't know, it's a tremendous development, right? But you see, like, this is what always happens in this conflict with them, right? They abuse their power. They have power, right? By having this technology, this is the power, but they don't know how to use it. They abuse it. Right? Why? Well, because, they use it to an extent that allows me to see this kind of thing. And then I understand how it works. I can reverse engineer by observation, by simple observation. I don't even have to, do anything. So it's like having, I think that's their weakness, right? Like, they don't know how to use power. They abuse it. They don't know how to measure, to what extent to go, to not give the adversary the weapon. And this is what happened when they gave me the database, right? They were harassing me to such extent that it became obvious to me that they were using this geo-index. And not only that, I could see the locations that were in the geo-index where they were tagging me. So I found it. It's the same thing. Like, they abused the technology, the power. They abused it. They abused it to a point that they gave it to me, right? And now I have it. It's amazing. Somebody should really, somebody who is qualified, right, should analyze these things. Because I imagine, right, like, this must be something that military people, when they go to school, study. Like, and I think maybe that's the problem, right? These people are not educated, right? They're criminals with the powers of the state. But they're criminals. They're not really military people, right? Like, they're criminals. And the criminals don't go to school. That's the problem, right? I think a real general that, went to school for being a general and, had a career in military wouldn't make this mistake, I imagine, Like, for example, when I don't know the name of the operation, right? But when they killed Osama bin Laden, I think it was one of those operations, right? One of the helicopters went down. What they did, they burned it, they put it on fire immediately, right? Because they didn't want the enemy to have the technology, right? That's what I'm trying to articulate. I don't know how to articulate it, but that's the idea, right? Like, when you have a weapon, the first thing you have to do is to not let it fall in the hands of the other side. I mean, that's the most basic thing, right? But they don't understand that concept. They abuse the weapon to the point that they give it to the adversary, and they've done this dozens of times with me, dozens, right? Like the Akamai click attack, the Liana Technologies attack. I was able to reverse engineer what they do with Liana Technologies in MagicPad, which is a money-making machine. I mean, it's probably one of the biggest engines of income of this network, probably more than the drug trade. And they gave that to me and nobody, right? Why? Because they abused it. They attacked all the companies for 20 years with that thing, right? Until I figured out how it worked. Then the geo index, the same. They were harassing me, attacking me hundreds of times per day. Of course, I'm not an idiot. I'm going to figure it out. And now, with the cameras, right? Now I know not only how the system works, but I even know the trigrams in the cars, right? The diagrams, which are the interceptors or which are the taggers, right? It's a consistent mistake. Again, I don't think it's a mistake. I think it's lack of education. That's what it is. These people are not, really intelligent officers. They're criminals. Kidnapping children. Anyhow, I filed the two documents with the clerk. One document is the Second Amendment motion for discovery asking for their recordings, right? So, it's all in the record. And, if they destroy, they commit another crime. And I also filed a short declaration narrating what happened that day, right? So it's not, per se, or, I put it in writing, narrated, everything that happened. Now they're going to have to say why the Purcell litigant doesn't have the right to even file a document in this court. I mean, that's something that they have to explain now, right? Why this court has these special procedures. And why a Purcell litigant cannot come into the courtroom, right? They have to explain that now.